Okay, we're starting the live stream. Oh,
Okay. Okay. So we are here in the office. And the Transportation Committee meeting on Monday, June 5th. It's at 7:30 and the time is now 7:33, so we're only 3 minutes late, which is not bad. Okay, so at the table, please introduce yourself at the table and tell me who you are and why you're here. Start this way.
Vic Press, Community Board 11 resident, former Transportation Vice Chair of Community Board 8.
Good, next.
Deborah Kowalik, Transportation Committee member.
Leon Davis, Bronx House, here to discuss open streets.
Okay, good.
Michael Cass, local Community Board 11 resident.
Okay,
Kevin Deloya, from Community Board 10 and 11.
okay, excellent. Welcome, everybody. Okay, meeting minutes. I wasn't here last time, so I don't know if there was minutes. So we might have to keep that in abeyance for a little while. Is Chris up there? I don't know what's up there.
I spoke with Jeremy earlier about the minutes. Both April and May were given, but not.
Okay, so they're not here. Okay, that's all it is. Okay. Bronx 12, Fordham Road Bus Priority Project. Okay, so I'm sure we have people up on that screen that would like to talk about the Bronx 12 Fordham Road Bus Priority Project. So whoever is speaking, please introduce yourself and let us know what is happening with this project.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dorisa Cruz. I'm the acting Deputy Bronx Borough Commissioner. I'm joined tonight by some of my team, Holly Malone, Kevin Perez Molina, and Jesus Soto. I'm also here with Janet Jenkins, our Assistant Commissioner of Transit Development, as well as Dustin Koo, who's our project manager for Fordham. And we're joined by some of our friends at MTA New York City Transit. Megan Molina, if you could introduce your team.
Thanks, Dorisa. Megan Molina from Government and Community Relations for New York City Transit, joined by George Hermonti from our Operations Planning team.
Thanks, Megan. So yeah, we're here to talk tonight about our Fordham bus priority improvements. I'm going to pass it off to Dustin to get started. And I just ask that you hold questions until the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. When you ask questions during the presentation, don't answer them, okay? Thank you. No,
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
we hear you great.
Great. Awesome. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Okay. Is this working? Can you guys see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great.
You see it.
Great. So thank you all for having us here tonight to talk about the Fordham Road Inwood Bus Priority Project. Today I'm going to go over the background of the project, timeline of outreach. Joe, my colleague Joe from MTA, will be going through a 6-month camera enforcement evaluation we did along the BX12 route. Our Assistant Commissioner Janet Jenkins will go over the traffic analysis, and then we'll go over the summary and next steps for this project. So a little bit of project background in case anyone is new to this. Why are we studying Fordham Road? I know part of your district, in your district, it's part of Pelham Parkway, but a lot of the benefits that we'll be doing on Fordham Road and on Pelham Parkway, it affects the whole corridor and benefits the whole corridor. So the BX12 was launched in 2008 as the first SPS route. It is the BX12 SPS is the busiest bus route in the Bronx and second busiest in New York City after the M15. This corridor is a critical crosstown transportation corridor that also connects the Bronx to Manhattan. Um, on this corridor, about 85,000 average bus riders ride along the 5 bus routes here. And this area of the city is located within a Tier 1 priority investment area in the New York City Streets Plan. Bus riders and pedestrians form the majority of roadway users on Fordham Road. 62% of households on the corridor have no access to a private vehicle, and 71% commute to work via public transit, walking, or biking. This corridor is a Vision Zero priority corridor with 4 Vision Zero priority intersections, mostly along the western side of the corridor, but it does mean that it warrants, a look at improving safety along Fordham and Pelham Parkway. There were 83 persons killed or significantly injured between 2014 and 2018 on Fordham between the Major Deacon and Boston Road. So this doesn't apply to your district much, but the existing bus lanes on Fordham Road are curbside only, and they are not in effect for the entire day. So they're just part-time bus lanes. They're mostly in effect from Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with a 2-hour midday window for deliveries. There's a section on the western part of the corridor where it does not have the 2-hour window. And Pelham Parkway hours are in effect 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. A lot of the issues that we've been observing over the years along Fordham Road and Pelham Parkway are the curbside bus lanes are a lot less are not efficient. There's intense demand for the curb. Deliveries are only permitted within a 2-hour window for most of the bus lanes. Expeditious pickups and drop-offs by passenger cars are allowed at any time, regardless of bus lane hours, which causes further delays for buses needing to weave in and out of traffic. So our observations and data show that the existing curbside bus lanes are frequently blocked throughout the day. And now my colleague Joe can talk about bus speeds and ridership that we've been observing on the BX12.
Hey, everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Perfect. So I'm Joe Shermonti with New York City Transit. So I'll just talk a little bit right now about bus speeds and ridership, in particular on the BX12 local and SBS. So on this chart here, there's a blue line and a green line. The blue line is showing ridership from 2007 to 2019, and the green line is showing bus speeds on the BX12 and the BX12 SBS. So when SBS started, we had service and street design changes, and we had all kinds of improvements for bus service, particularly after the implementation of Select Bus Service in 2008, and that lasted through about 2014. So you can see in recent years, the bus speeds and the ridership have been declining. And that, Dustin, go to the next one. So looking a little bit more closely at the bus speeds on the BX12 SBS on Fordham Road. In this little map here, the darker lines are slower speeds. So looking at this, you could see that bus speeds are basically slowest from Boston Road to Broadway in Manhattan in both directions. And there's major segments of congestion, include University Heights Bridge, which is obviously a bottleneck, as well as between Webster Ave and Grand Concourse, where it's a heavy retail area. So, yep.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, so with all that said, all the issues that we've been observing and the declining speeds and ridership, we wanted to take a second look at this and how we can better improve the corridor. So DOT's transit toolkit has evolved since 2008. We have a lot more tools at our disposal to improve the street through various design measures. Commercial vehicles illegally park in the bus lane if they do not conduct their deliveries within that 2-hour window. So that's very hard to comply with. Buses are forced to drive in general travel lanes, creating even greater congestion for these 85,000 bus passengers. The existing condition on Fordham Road does not work well for any roadway user. And because we have a more sophisticated toolkit now, we want to really explore how we can improve Fordham Road and Pelham Parkway. So this was proposed. These 3 design options were proposed at the Community Advisory Board meeting of March of last year. I'll briefly go over them just quickly. But we were studying what I'll call alternatives A, B, and C. Alternative A consisted of offset bus lanes in both directions. Alternative B was offset bus lanes in both directions, but an eastbound busway from Morris Avenue to Webster Avenue. And then alternative C sort of builds on top of the previous 2 and introduces a 2-way busway between Jerome and Webster Avenues. So this is obviously not in your district, but was the most congested part of the corridor. So that the design distinctions were sort of something we want to highlight. What we did announce at the Community Advisory Board meeting last week and most recently at the CB7 meeting last week was that we have, after all the work that we've done, which we will go into later in this presentation, we have decided that we will be we will continue to explore alternative A and not move forward with exploring alternative B and C. So just a quick timeline of outreach. We have done a lot of work on this project. So we have had over 20 individual community outreach events to date. We set up a community advisory board in January of 2021. We've had 4 meetings so far. The majority of the outreach that we've done for this project has taken place within the past year, since the 3rd community advisory board meeting. Notable events that happened within the past year are we proposed those 3 design options that I went over. We received letters from Councilmember Felice, the Fordham and Belmont bids, the Bronx Borough President, and ZB6, with concerns about our design proposals. We listened to those concerns through multiple meetings and project briefings. In November of last year, DOT Commissioner hosted a walkthrough with New York City Transit President Davey, the Bronx Borough President, Council members Felice and Sanchez, to listen to what their concerns were for the corridor. The outcome of that walkthrough was that we put the project on hold and established a 6-month ABLE camera evaluation, which Joe will go over in a minute. We conducted surveys along Arthur Avenue and listened to concerns from the bid. And we continued speaking to major community institutions to understand what their transportation needs were. And then most recently, last week, we hosted our 4th community advisory board meeting where we went over a longer presentation of what we will be presenting to you today, but the full presentation will be available online. So now Joe will go over the 6-month camera enforcement evaluation that took place along the BX12 route.
All right, I'm back. You can hear me again, okay?
Yes. Oh, Joe, for some reason we can't hear you anymore.
So sorry, guys. I must have hit the space bar or something. All right, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the fixed location camera violations. And the fixed camera is basically enforcement for drivers moving in the bus lane. There currently are 10 fixed location cameras along Fordham Road. 2 were installed in 2011 and 8 in 2013. There's 5 cameras in Council District 15, and about over 1,800 violations were issued between November of 2022 and this April of 2023. And 5 cameras in Council District 14 with over 2,700 violations issued between November of 22 and April of this year. So now talking about the on-camera bus lane enforcement, or ABLE, which stands for Automated Bus Lane Enforcement. So this is more or less for cars that are parked in bus lanes. And ABLE wasn't implemented on the BX12 SBS on November 18th of 2022. And at that time, there was a 60-day warning period. So no violations were given out. No tickets were given out. However, nearly 16,000 tickets were issued on Fordham Road between Sedgwick and Southern Boulevard between November 18th and this past April 21st. And as of April 2023, buses were traveling 4.7% faster. So if you look at that chart over there off to the right, it really is just comparing BX12 SBS changes since the ABLE implementation compared to Bronx bus speeds overall. So you can see that bus speed improvements on the BX12 were actually a little bit better than the Bronx overall. However, with that said, bus speeds on the BX12 were still slower than the 2008 post-SBS bus speeds of 6.7 miles per hour on Fordham Road. But the other thing to emphasize is that the ABLE cameras do actually, in fact, change driver behavior. So the results are that 86% of the drivers are only committing 1 violation. Then it drops significantly to just 9% committing 2 violations, and then down to only 5% committing 3 or more violations. All right, you go to the next one, Dustin. So the ABLE evaluation conclusions that we've determined, bus lane enforcement is having a positive effect on bus speeds on Fordham Road. However, enforcement alone has not raised speeds to prior levels, as blockages remain very frequent on Fordham Road. Most violations are issued in the central and western parts of Fordham Road. So what we think is that this improved bus lane enforcement paired with improved bus lane designs can further improve bus speeds for the 85,000 bus riders using Fordham Road every day.
Great, thank you, Joe. Now our Assistant Commissioner Janet Jenkins can go over the traffic analysis that we've been working on over the past year.
Great, thanks, Dustin. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. So I just wanted to talk through, so what we did for this project is we did do a lot of traffic analysis to make sure that this proposal that we're coming to you with actually works. And what I first want to do is just talk through briefly what the methodology for that is. For all of our projects, we count every intersection in a particular network and pedestrians at all of those intersections. In this analysis for this project, we did counts at over 60 intersections from, I said Pelham Parkway on here, but really from like Boston Road, across Fordham Road to the University Heights Bridge, over to Manhattan on 207th Street. And then we also did a lot of counts on Kingsbridge Road and 188th Street, which are kind of the diversion routes or the drive around routes that people take if they can't get through on Fordham Road. We also look at, and what we do is an origin destination analysis. We look at certain points on either end of where we thought we were going to potentially do this busway and figure out where are people actually going to. So if people are going, you know, eastbound on Fordham Road through the Kingsbridge intersection, where do they end up? Do they actually end up on Fordham Road? in the intersections right near there, or do they end up in other parts of the Bronx or in Manhattan? And the same with people going westbound. And that helps give us a sense of how much traffic we need to really accommodate on the street. How do we program our traffic analysis? And so that's all done through anonymous GPS data like you see on Google Maps that tells you what speeds are going. We have software that can tell us what those to and from locations are as well. Then we plug all of those into a model. This is a little picture here of the model itself. And we analyze everything in there. We look at the signal timing, we look at the number of lanes and turning movements, like how many lanes are at each intersection? Are they going left, through, straight? We look at the number of pedestrians and how long it takes them to get across the street and make sure there's enough time for them. And we did this for multiple alternatives and different scenarios, and also thinking about what kind of improvements we would need to make to the traffic network in order for this bus proposal to work. And of course, we validate the model with in-person observations too. So especially when we're doing existing conditions, we go out, we observe traffic, we see how it's flowing, we see how parking movements are happening, how loading is happening. So we really understand, make sure the model reflects the reality of what's happening on the street. And then of course, we analyze what we say is the worst case scenario. We look at the worst hour of the day. For this project, we looked at the morning, midday, PM, and Saturday peak hours. And the PM peak hour, the evening peak hour is the worst. So we're really looking at that worst hour of the day, the worst traffic, the longest queues, the hardest diversion patterns. And we also know, though, that some drivers are going to divert when things are that hard in a project like this and drive at other times of day or take a different mode or use streets that are not in our network. So we did this traffic analysis, not just for the 3 different alternatives, but for a range of alternatives, a range of scenarios that showed a percentage volume reduction in there. So we took out about 20% of the vehicles, because in our experience, they end up taking a different way or different streets than are in our model. And then what we come up with is a prediction of the future according to traffic engineering standards. Next slide, Dustin. So we analyzed 3 alternatives, and I see the question in the chat, and we'll talk about that. So we did 3 alternatives, offset bus lanes, an eastbound busway, and a 2-way busway. And as Dustin mentioned, we are not pursuing alternatives B and C at this time. We're just advancing the offset bus lane project into design or into the next phase of our project. So I'm going to talk about that one a little bit more. Dustin, next slide. So here's what an offset bus lane is. This is a picture of Webster Avenue. So Webster Avenue has offset bus lanes in both directions. And what this means, right now on Fordham Road, the bus lanes are on the curb, right? So where people are picking up and dropping off. This will move the bus lane 1 lane away from the curb, but the bus still pulls over to the curb to the bus stop. So most of the time when it's traveling, it's 1 lane away, but the bus stops will still remain at the curb. Somewhere down the road, we may be able to do a project like we did on Webster, where we, do curb extensions so the bus can just stop right in line in the bus lane. But for this project this year, what we're looking at is the buses would still pull over to the curb. The benefit of this is that it will allow the curb lane now to be used for parking and loading and pick up and drop off without affecting the bus service, right? Without getting in the way of the bus. It still leaves a single travel lane for vehicles in both directions and gives buses the priority that we think it needs. And we also, of course, like Joe said, we still have enforcement to sort of keep people out of double parking in that bus lane, to keep both cars and vehicles moving. Next slide. So this map just shows briefly kind of the purple in the middle shows where there's currently existing curbside bus lanes that we would change to offset lanes, really from Sedgwick to Southern Boulevard. And then we would expand those offset lanes from Southern over to Boston Road to create those additional new bus lanes there. We're thinking that all of these offset bus lanes would be in effect 24/7, which is typical of what we do in other parts of the city. And potentially exploring expanding the bus lane hours on Pelham Parkway if it looks like that's something that is needed. We haven't looked at all at that yet, though. Next slide. So when we look at the traffic analysis, what we did here, rather than report on that whole big model, is we look at specifically what turning movements at which streets might have some challenges. And I know that your section of this is all the way on the right side of this map. And I was, the scenario that we analyzed really saw no negative effect on traffic movements at Boston or along the segment between, Southern and Boston Road where it connects into Pelham Parkway. So essentially traffic would operate about the same as it does today, but allowing for that bus priority. We have some other work to do on these other parts of Fordham where the dark blue arrow is the northbound on University Avenue, and there's some challenges around Webster that we'll need to keep working on. But overall, we think this is a really successful scenario that will really move the buses and keep traffic flowing very well. Next slide. Dustin, yours.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Okay, so summary and next steps of the project. So as we mentioned, we will be advancing this design for alternative A, the offset bus lanes in both directions. This decision was made based on factors identified in the traffic analysis and listening to community concerns. There are some benefits, such as the benefits of alternative A include bus lanes less likely to be blocked from illegal parking. Because there was intense curb demand from the curbside lanes, shifting those bus lanes from the curb to the travel lane frees up that curb space. So in our latest estimate, we have about 150 new parking and loading spaces added to Fordham Road instead of being confined to a 2-hour window. However, the offset bus lanes are not foolproof. Double parking can still block the bus lane, but they are an upgrade from what currently exists today. And as with all of our projects, DOT and MTA will continue to monitor bus speeds and reliability and curb demand to make sure things are working the way that they're supposed to, and if not, whether we need to take a second look or third look in the future. So this is just a rendering of Pelham Parkway and Boston Road. This is currently what exists today. You'll see Pelham Park North and Pelham Parkway South. And what we're proposing in your district would be essentially trying to extend the bus lane from Fordham Road through the park and onto Pelham Parkway. The offset bus lane design does not apply to this particular section of the corridor, just based on where there is no parking lane, on Pelham Parkway, so it is best for the newly installed, the new proposed bus lane to be on the right side of the street. And just to note, this is a very, very rough draft conceptual design, so we will be working in the coming months to refine this. So next steps, we're currently presenting to all of the community boards in the project area. Over the summer, we'll continue to refine the design and take in feedback from the community. And then we hope to implement this project in the fall. So now we can open it up to questions.
Okay, very good. Thank you all. So this is the way we're going to do it. we're going to let everybody ask 2 questions. But I don't want you to answer them because people tend sometimes to ask the same question. So we'll go first to people on our board here, and then we'll go to our community people. So I'm going to start off, and whoever wants to take a list, Justin, take the questions and then answer them all at the end. Okay, so my first question, I get 2 also. I'm not a privileged character. Okay, my first question, which really bothers me, is there's so many other buses on Pelham Parkway going into Fordham Road. When I was a kid, I knew all the number of the buses. Today, I hope I know them. So you got all those Westchester buses, 60, 61, and 62. Then you got a bus that turns from Southern Boulevard. I think it's a 9 that goes into Fordham Road. Then last but not least, you got a bus that goes off of Crotona. I think that's a 17 that goes into Fordham Road. So you are saying that people stopping and so on and so forth is the issue. But have you looked at somehow, I guess it's more an MTA question, Ms. Rodley, somehow curtailing some of those buses and making their final stop maybe before Fordham Road without adding to this congestion? Because you could have all the bus lanes in the world, but you got too many buses going that way also. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm going to try to take my 2. Number 2, okay, so now we're going to paint a scenario. You are coming down, and this has been a big problem forever, and I said one of these days this is going to be a big tragedy. So you're going to come down Boston Road and you're going south. And you're going to turn into Pelham Parkway, which sometimes on a good day, it take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because cars are coming from the north, cars are coming from the south, so on and so forth, getting into Pelham Parkway. Now, they're going to have to get into Pelham Parkway with only 1 lane. And my second question is, if a guy, I'll try to say this one right, if a guy is coming west or a girl is coming west on Boston Road, and they got to get onto the Bronx River Parkway north on Pelham Parkway, are they going to have to jump over the bus lane to get into that Bronx River Parkway north? That is my 2 questions. Debbie goes next. And I'm writing the questions down.
Part of him mentioning the Bronx River Parkway is one of the things that I got a question of, and I believe that was page 27 of the draft concept. I drive a school bus, so I am in the bus lane. That concept design of extending that bus lane, that's not going to work. It's absurd. It's a free-for-all over there, and I'm just glad my vehicle's big and yellow because people didn't see me. So I really don't think that's going to work. But with the cameras, whether it's the Able camera or the fixed camera, how are they activated? Because I see many vehicles riding along in the bus lane in front of me, right behind an MTA bus. So how are they activated to get these tickets?
Okay, 2 questions. Anybody else from the committee on that Zoom? Nope.
Harry or
Harry.
Hazel?
Harry or Hazel?
I'm
Okay.
good. I'm just listening.
Okay, and Hazel is?
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Anybody here from on that? Let's go from people that are here. Anybody here?
Even board members first who are on there.
Board
Board members, Cynthia Rodriguez, you got a question?
Let's just make it easy.
I
Go
guess
ahead.
more of, hi, good evening. I have more of a concern / comment. I drive from, basically the length of Pelham Parkway all the way across to the University Heights Bridge on a daily basis. And on a good day, it takes me a half hour, but more likely than not, it's anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. And I just can't conceive the amount of congestion, particularly down by Webster Avenue, in both directions, that eliminating an entire lane, it'll wreak havoc on Fordham Road. Fordham Road is bad enough. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Miguel?
Miguel from the board. Miguel, speak your piece, please.
Hello, I'm just I'm gonna piggyback on Cynthia's statement. I mean, I have to go to the Bronx River North, and it gets obnoxious in the morning, and I don't know how taking one lane away will make it any kind of better, because the bus lanes are just, they're taking over. Nobody respects them. So that's my statement. Thank you.
Okay. Can we go from now on, and we're gonna call it the Cynthia statement. Cynthia, with your permission, if you just are seconding or thirding Cynthia's statement, just say that, because we don't have to go into a length.
I got
Is
you.
that okay with you, Cynthia?
No, that was it. That was it.
No, we're just gonna call it the Cynthia statement. The people that agree with you, that's all. Okay, who else from the board?
That's it on the
That's
board.
it, board. Now we go to Ms. Delgado. You are on, Ms. Delgado.
Thank you, Rabbi. As a Friends of Pelham Parkway founder, I do have some concern. First question is, why couldn't MTA provide this presentation in advance of this meeting so we could have constructive feedback after a review? Second question is the Community Advisory Board. Who are those members? Because DOT has already sued successfully for circumventing community boards and going to a CAB that was handpicked by them to be more supportive of their proposals and circumventing community impact. Third question is, on Pelham Parkway, we don't have illegal drop-off because on the eastbound, westbound, is the parkway. There's not a commercial or residential strip, so there's no need for drop-off. We do have sometimes people using the bus lane doing illegal hours. That does happen. I am concerned with the offset bus lane because I actually think it will impede traffic, because when the bus lane has to pull to the curb, it could happen during ongoing traffic and impede two lanes at the same time. And lastly, I do feel what a waste of taxpayers' money when DDC, Pelham Park Reconstruction, does repave both the westbound, eastbound lanes from Pelham Parkway, Boston Road, all the way to Stillwell. I mean, why did they repave the bus lanes only for it to be offset? So these are my concerns. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Finch is next.
Yes, I wanted to know, why was it better in 2009? Like, do you know when they introduced the limited, why was it so much faster and why did it degrade over time? And then the other question is, have you studied what the cars at the curb on Fordham are doing? Like, why are they pulling over and parking on the curb, and who are they? Like, I'm a very frequent bus rider for the 12, and usually very often I'm taking it all the way over to Inwood. And I noticed that there's a lot of congestion around drop off and pickup places for like taxis, especially around areas like Metro North and Fordham Plaza. So is there some kind of design for those areas where you can have designated passenger drop off and pickup areas at the curb?
Excellent. Thank you. Next, Mr. Dyer, and then we are.
He was already called.
Oh, he's
Miguel
good.
was already called.
Good, excellent. I see that.
Okay.
Okay, now we go back here for two questions, and then we are going to get a response, and then we're going to move on. Go.
On the MTA ridership and speed list, or slide, why did it end in 2019? Because I know I drove Fordham Road during the pandemic, and those buses were going at least 15, 20 miles an hour, okay? Because there was no traffic on Fordham Road. And Fordham Road, as a matter of fact, backs up all the way to Boston Road in the mornings and sometimes at rush hour in the evenings. Plus, you did not say where the pedestrians were crossing Fordham Road. they're not crossing all at the intersections. Half of them are crossing in the middle of the street, stopping traffic and buses. And finally, my last question will be, how are cars or trucks crossing this bus lane? Are they going to be picked up by cameras and given tickets for going into the bus lane to park on the side or to make right turns across the bus lane? That's my final question.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public that has a question? Are you just saying hello?
No.
Okay.
You're not concerned about the bike lane?
Okay. Okay.
Well,
One or two questions.
But I
wanna
just
get-
want to state, as a bus driver, and being that they mentioned Webster Avenue, I drive on Webster, and it does not stop the delivery people from making deliveries to any of the stores. Me and the MTA are having to hop in and out of their offset bus lane. So offset bus lane is not gonna work.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I don't know who, if you want to choose there, whoever wants to answer DOT questions, whoever wants to answer MTA questions.
Well, I could start.
Go ahead. Go.
So I think one of the first ones was about the buses operating, the multiple bus routes operating on Fordham Road.
Okay, my question. Go ahead.
Correct. So we did recently do a whole Bronx bus network redesign. So a lot of operational things were addressed with feedback, again, from riders, from the community. So we got a lot of information from them about what would help to improve bus operations all over the borough. But the thing about you had mentioned, like, just sort of truncating some of the routes or something like that. Firstly, some of the routes operate through Fordham Road. So we're connecting two communities that are not in Fordham Road, maybe from, I don't know.
Okay, whatever, go ahead.
Wherever, but operating through. So you can't really just cut that route in half somehow. The other thing too is there are a number of routes that actually do end at Fordham Road around Fordham Plaza. But the thing with that is, in particular, we got some nice layover space there. And as you may know, getting layover space is not easy. So just simply moving things around like that, maybe moving a terminal, not quite as easy as it seems, because now you're looking for additional layover space. And there's a lot of routes there, which means a lot of buses laying over. So it's complex. It's something we could always look into, and we could work with, the community down the road, but it's tricky. It's tricky.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. But you're concerned about speed. But if you're going to have, what did I count? 6, 7 buses going up that way, each one of them is going to have to wait for the passengers to get out, the passengers to get in. So you could get rid of speed with your bus lane, but sometimes your bus lane could be your worst enemy too, because you got all these buses going up there. You got buses from Westchester going up there. Call up Mr. Westchester and tell me a bus has to stop at Boston Road or something like that. You're clogging me up. And all you've heard from the public here, there is not one person in this, and I think I'm speaking for anybody here, in Community Board 11 that could get to work in a decent time if they have to use Pelham Parkway and Fordham Road, unless they have an airplane.
So buses or?
Anyway, to get there.
Specific buses, right?
But sometimes, even if I'm around, I walk and I beat some of the buses. So I'm just saying, I understand your answer, Joseph, but I'm saying, I think your buses are your problem too, besides your trucks and your cars and everything. Okay, go ahead, Joseph. I'm sorry. I interrupted you. I won't do that again.
Oh, it's all right. That's what we're here for. Let's see. I think there was one about the chart ending at 2019. So you're correct. There was the whole COVID incident, I'll call it, which threw off, so to speak, not only our ridership numbers, because we suspended fare payment. So, in effect, our numbers look like we had no riders, but obviously that's not true. And at the same time, bus speeds went up considerably. So, we struggle sometimes with with that period from like 2020 through, 2022-ish, I guess. Because the numbers are so different. So, but now we're starting to get back into more regular operations. So that's just an anomaly kind of there in those months, and I'm sorry, those years. So if we were to show, yeah, oh, look at the speed's going way up. Well, that's because nobody was on the road and we had people just boarding without paying. So that really sped up boarding. It was just a quirky time.
You said that, Joe. Unfortunately, I hear in this community, they call that SVS the free bus. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, and that's why you go in the morning and you see people lining up for that bus, and that bus is packed and so on and so forth. And I know Mr. Sander introduced that bus, correct? Mr. Sander, when he was the chairman. And I think somebody asked the question here, what was before those days? So this SBS coming into creation, really one, which look, I can't say anything about it. It's a free bus. I don't know if MTA is even checking who's paying anymore because I don't think
They do.
they do. I don't think they can even get. I don't think they even get on
They,
there.
no, they check.
They check?
Oh, yeah, they swarm it.
Okay, so that I'm not aware of. But anyway, is that also causing, if Debbie is right, so is that causing a slowdown that you have the MTA checking to see who's paying and who's not paying?
Well, I don't know every one of their techniques. When they check, whether they hold the bus or not, sometimes they might, sometimes they may not. So there may be a temporary, delay in service when they're doing their fare inspection, but it's
Now, that's gonna stop
minimal.
the bus lane too, that's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Go on to the other questions?
Yeah, go ahead, go. Next. Who else wants to answer from DOT questions?
Yeah, I can take some. We have this all jotted down, so let me try to go over ones that I am able to answer. So there's one of your first questions on Boston Road, moving down to one lane. I'm not sure I quite understand. We are not touching. Just to be clear, we're not touching Boston Road. We're only touching Pelham Parkway. So the lane
I think
configuration.
the question meant if you're coming down Boston Road and turning into Pelham, do you have to drive across the bus lane and skip over that to make the turn to get onto Pelham Parkway? Because the lane configuration will be different. I think that's what the question meant. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Dustin, is that right?
Yeah, you have the question 100%.
Okay, so Dustin, I'll just answer quick. I'll just say, like, that's part of our job is to make sure that we're designing the road properly so that that makes sense from a driver's perspective, depending on what direction you're coming. But yeah, you essentially would turn into the second lane as you make that turn around the corner. That's correct. Sorry, Dustin, go ahead.
No, thank you for helping me explain that. So, yeah, there are a few. I think there were a few questions pertaining to how offset lanes work and how they help with curb demand. So essentially, offset lanes free up the curb space so that we know. I think a few of you mentioned in your questions that there's a lot of blocking of the bus lanes. Yet we are very aware of that. That's a major reason why we're doing this project. Moving that bus lane away from the curb into the travel lane allows for legal parking and loading on the curb that is designated. So currently it's only designated for a 2-hour window. That's not practical for a lot of the businesses there. We did a survey with the business owners on Fordham Road, and a lot of them didn't even know when their deliveries were coming. So it was really hard to plan around that 2-hour window. It's just the offset lanes are an upgrade from that free up that curb space for more variety of uses. I think I saw a question on how the cab was, or actually, Teresa, do you want to take a stab at
Sure.
the
I
question we
think
have?
Roxanne had asked, first, I'm actually reading it from the chat. So, why presentation could,
Answer mine of how do the cameras work, whether they're fixed or the able cameras?
Oh, I can go over the fixed cameras and then maybe Joe can talk about the able cameras. We did have a slide about that in the appendix, but
Explaining on how they're actually being issued a ticket. How is a fixed camera differentiating between an MTA bus to give it a ticket or not give it a ticket versus a car to give it a ticket or not give it a ticket?
sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Dustin.
So stationary cameras are better for catching drivers using the bus lane to drive through an intersection. You are allowed to use the bus lane to make a right turn, but you're not allowed to use it to drive through just to cut through traffic. So the stationary cameras can capture the driver using the bus lane to drive through the intersection instead of making a right turn. So they will capture the license plate for that. And the able cameras, which are on the buses, and Joe can maybe elaborate more on this, are better at capturing cars parked in the bus lane. Joe, do you want to go over how it works? I know there's like
Well,
two-
I'm gonna say
you
I'm
need
not
two
an expert on
consecutive-
the able, but right, the vehicle needs to be spotted by two separate buses. So one bus will see it, and catch it on the camera, and then a second bus has to see it as well. And I think you know what? Maybe I'm not sure how long in between the two buses that I forget off the top of my head. But 5 minutes? Okay. So 5 minutes, and if it's caught the second time, then the ticket will be issued.
Yeah, so in the presentation that we shared with you all in the appendix, there's a slide on exactly how the able cameras work.
Perfect. Thank you.
Nothing basically stopping a car from riding all of Pelham Parkway. As long as it's moving, it's not stopping to be issued a ticket.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
If a car is in the bus lane from Stillwell to Boston Road on Pelham Parkway, either direction, pick your way, and if the car is moving along with the bus, so that you're saying there's no way basically to issue that vehicle a ticket because it's not parked?
No, the fixed cameras will pick those up. So the ones that are on the pole, if a car is in the bus lane and drives past that pole, those cameras will pick that up. And that car will be issued a violation.
There's no fixed cameras between Stillwell and Boston Road. All the fixed cameras are up in the Fordham Road area.
That's right. And so we may look to actually add some more on Pelham Parkway to see how that works. And in the interim, I think probably we haven't talked a lot about this with the MTA and how the MTA buses capture cars that are riding in the bus lane. It's not that they can't do it. They certainly can, but we should just verify, I guess, Joe, like how that actually happens. But the camera is on the front of the bus. So on the front of the bus, the camera will shoot the license plate of the vehicle riding in front of it and issue a violation.
Okay. So if a car's driving in a bus lane, it's not a bus lane then?
Correct.
Okay. And I think I have one more question I'm able to answer before I can hand it off to Teresa about the cab process. But there was a question on why 2009 was better, and then it declined since then. That was the first SBS route. So I think when people saw, that red paint that was fresh, and buses driving through it, they were probably afraid to, drive into it. It was pretty new in the city at the time. My best guess is probably over time, people realized they could use the bus lane to drive through it without any penalties and park through it too. And I think just over time, the 2-hour window was just not sustainable or practical. So you see that over time, that's driver behavior sort of got used to being there, and this is why we're taking a second look at it, just because we have better design options to choose from.
I'll say too, I mean, the volume of traffic has certainly expanded in the last 15 years, right? Like traffic as the city has grown, as more people have cars, as development of the Bronx has taken off, like there's definitely more vehicles on Fordham Road too. And that has contributed to that slowdown as well. Dustin, do you also want to take the question about what people are doing at the curb and how we study that? And can there be designated areas for pickup drop off? And
Yeah. So in the offset bus lane design, one of the main benefits is that I mentioned was 150 new parking or loading spaces along the corridor. So that would be what was previously a bus lane for 8 hours of the day, where you couldn't use it at all for anything outside of that 2-hour window in the middle of the day, can now be freed up to create designated parking or loading spots. And we can, we want to work with the community to figure out what that space could be best used for.
Right.
We missed Roy on asking his question. He had his hand raised.
Got people here that we didn't answer questions from. Then we'll go to Roy. What open questions do we have?
I'm sorry, can I just answer the Friends of Pelham Parkway, those questions? real
Sure,
quick?
that's what we want you to do. Thank you.
So why the presentation couldn't be provided ahead of the meeting for review? So we were just making some final edits. We're gonna share it after this meeting, and as Dustin mentioned, we're doing review through the entire summer, so you have plenty of time to send us any feedback. I'm actually gonna put my information in the chat. Feel free to send me any follow-up comments or feedback about the presentation. The second question, who is in the Community Advisory Board? It's a group of people, so it's all the elected officials along the corridor invited, the community boards. We invited the Belmont and Fordham Bid, the Bronx Zoo, Botanical Gardens, some of the schools along the area, NYPD, Bronx Chamber of Commerce, some advocates. That's kind of a general idea of who's on the CAB.
From 11.
Fordham? I'm sorry?
So nobody from 11.
CB11 was invited.
11 was invited.
Sent it to the Community Board 11.
I was not made aware of it.
It was sent.
Okay, I see Roy Smith's question up on the chat. If
Sorry, I
anybody
just want to make one last point of
Sure,
clarification. The
sure, go ahead.
offset lanes are not going to be east of Boston Road. So the curbside lanes that are currently, there's a capital project for them, and obviously on the south side it was already done. Those are going to remain curbside. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, Roy Smith's questions.
Okay, thank you. You can hear me?
We hear you perfectly.
Okay, so my first question, the way camera enforcement works now, they take a picture, they read your license plate, and a week later or whatever, you get a nasty gram in the mail saying, guess what, we caught you and you owe us $50. But that doesn't do anything about stopping them from being in the bus lane right then and there. So maybe the solution to that is one of those big electronic signs that says, hey, fill in your license plate. We see you in the bus lane right now. Get the heck out of it. Otherwise, you're going to get a ticket. That might actually get people out of the bus lane immediately rather than just extracting $50 from them in a couple of weeks. So my other question is, there are technologies that exist that I know emergency vehicles use these. I assume they could work on buses as well. They can control the red lights. So when a bus comes up to an intersection, it could force the light to be green to let the bus go through. Are any of these technologies currently in use on MTA buses?
I can take those. So I appreciate the comment on the cameras. That's helpful. I think we will say though that although it doesn't get people out of the bus lane immediately, only about 85% 85% of people only get one ticket, so they don't get a second violation. So at least after they've gotten that one ticket, they mostly don't go back. So that's, I think, a really important statistic for us. Our goal is just to get those bus lanes clear. And so that works. And we do use a technology called Transit Signal Priority, which allows buses to either get an early green or hold the green light green a little longer so buses can get through that. And we do have that on portions of Fordham Road already and at about 3,000 intersections around the city. So that is something that DOT and MTA partner on and use on a regular basis. And it helps. It gives us a little bit of a benefit, but not as much as we need. It's really about the package of all the improvements that makes a big difference. Thanks.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, I'll give.
There was one thing that I did ask DOT prior to this meeting. And I'm hoping somebody here can address it and attend to it. From Stillwell to White Plains Road, or Boston Road, whichever. Is there any, westbound, this is, pertaining to the westbound direction. Is there any way, that you can put a paint on the red lane that you can make the right turn at Eastchester Road, Williamsbridge Road, White Plains Road? Because I myself, and I've seen it being done to MTA buses, people will be in the right car lane and they will cut a MTA bus off, they will cut a school bus off because they don't realize they can actually make the right turn from the red lane. So is there any way you can put the painted arrow on the ground near these intersections so they will hopefully stop cutting off buses and nearly causing accidents?
That's a good comment. Well,
Oh,
I
sorry.
appreciate that. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, we'll have to think about that. Teresa, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank you for bringing that to our attention, Debbie. I think we could take a look at that and I can follow up with you. This is my first time hearing about it. So yeah, we can follow up about that.
It is a daily occurrence, and if it wasn't a HIPAA issue of me putting a dash cam on the school bus, I would give you footage every day of people cutting off buses, school buses and MTA buses.
Understood. We'll take a look at this and get back to you, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I want to thank everybody.
Right.
We're going too late. I'm not going to sit here till 9 o'clock tonight. I really, I'm telling you, it was supposed to be 7:30 to 8:30, and it goes for 2 hours every time.
Well, any meeting will go to
Okay,
2
I'm the
hours.
chairman. I'm saying we are stopping right now. Okay, thank you. If you have a problem, please speak to the district manager.
Oh. Yeah, it's got a problem.
Next.
Okay. I am going to hold this off till we meet again. Hopefully where I am going to say one statement. I'll give everybody a chance, and that's what I was going to say some final statements. That I do not think you could compare Webster Avenue to Fordham Road. Not even close in terms of businesses and traffic. If it worked on Webster, I wish you all the best of luck on Belleville Parkway. That's my, if it did indeed work. Okay, now I'll go to everybody for one final
Okay.
comment. One comment,
One
please.
comment is, I'd like to know the current usage of the 2 lanes each way on Fordham Road and what the capacity of 1 lane on Fordham Road would be compared to the usage currently of the 2 lanes.
Okay, please answer that question.
Yeah, Jen, do you want to take that based on the
Yeah.
traffic analysis that we did?
Yeah, I mean, the traffic analysis is really looking at how can we accommodate those vehicles. So like I said, we expect about 20% of vehicles would actually stop using Fordham Road at that point. And so we would accommodate the rest of that volume in that one lane. We expect that we can. We think there could be some further delays at a couple of locations, and we're going to keep working this summer to sort of tweak that and see how we can optimize to try and keep that stuff moving there. But overall, we're not seeing a big delay here, a big impact on vehicles, but we are seeing a great benefit to buses. And for the 85,000 people a day that are riding buses, we think that's a really important trade-off.
Next, Debbie, one comment.
You'll come back to me.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Anybody from the audience here have one final comment? We want to move on. We have a lot of other business to do. Any have five? Oh, I see a hand. Ms. Delgado, it's yours.
I'll make it short, Rabbi. I'd just like to
No
comment regarding
problem.
Fordham Road and Webster Avenue. We should abide by the actual residents and the business bids to make the best decision for the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Back to Debbie. Nobody else has a hand or anything.
No, I just know it doesn't work on Webster. I don't see it being able to work on Fordham Road, and to cut down the travel lane more. It's ridiculous now, and there's only a certain few streets that go east and west that get to one side to the other, and it's just not going to work.
Okay, thank you. I agree with Debbie wholeheartedly. We got an Ephraim, and then we have a gentleman here. You'll go right after. Ephraim, one final comment, please.
Yes, I would recommend that more discussions take place, not just editing with DOT, but that there's more engagement, because I don't think that that's going to work currently. I think that I am concerned about the businesses over at Fordham, and then I'm also concerned about the people that need to drive. I think they got to go a little slow with this and make sure that that's done. But Rabbi, if there are more discussions, I think that would be the best going forward.
This is definitely not a dead issue. It is definitely not a dead issue. Let's go in order, and thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for your comment. Let's go to Ms. Finch.
Another question I thought of. You said there are 85,000 bus riders. Do you know how many people there are in cars, passenger cars, to compare to the 85,000 number?
In the PM peak hour, in the evening peak hour, there's about 1,100 vehicles. So if we estimate there's 1.5 people per vehicle on average, somebody can do that math for me. But it's that's per hour, so I don't know what the whole daily ridership is. But again, this is the highest ridership bus route in the Bronx with these routes. So it's a really important place for people to be traveling. And we're trying to and our goal is to balance that out, right? We didn't go through the traffic analysis for alternatives B and C, which are much more difficult for the road network. But this is a big change for the area, but it will add parking. It will be able to accommodate traffic, and we think it will be a successful project to help bus riders as well.
And the 85,000 was over what period of time?
Sorry, I can't tell when multiple people.
Oh, sorry, the 85,000 was over what period of time?
That's the average daily, Joe's on average daily ridership for the 5 main routes combined.
Correct. Yeah, that's all day.
Okay, Miguel, and that's it. Final statement of the evening. Miguel, are you here? Miguel's no longer here. Okay, so my recommendation is going to be to the board and committee that I would like to hear the response from those other 2 planning boards that you're going to after this. And I don't know if we could get minutes. I'll have to speak to Chris about that. And I would like to get an overall analysis from DOT and MTA, what they've heard from the public and from all the community boards. But at this time, I think you've heard us. I think people are agreeing here that it's a major, major challenge, and I think, unfortunately, I don't know if we're overly optimistic, but we definitely want to hear from you. We thank the whole MTA that is here. We thank the DOT that is here. Before we let you go, Howie Martin, your issue, does that, or Bronx House, did that come from DOT or that came from somebody else? That comes from the mayor's office, right?
Play Street?
So Play Street is from the mayor's office, right?
It's open streets, yeah, so we received, a notice,
Okay, so let me just ask DOT, open streets, do you have anything to do with that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so could I keep MTA? You are dismissed. Thank you
And our
so,
transit development folks for DOT can also go.
okay,
Bronx
fine.
office will stay.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
thanks,
so-
everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay, I guess I'm going to the gallery session, right, Debbie? I didn't miss anything. We did that? Yeah, we're going to gallery.
Open
Yeah.
Street, so.
Yeah, okay, so let's go to gallery. And I'm going to start off by introducing Mr.
Leon Davis.
Mr. Leon Davis, who's going to speak to us about what's called open streets
Yes.
on Pelham Parkway South between
Hone and Mulliner.
Hone and Mulliner.
Yeah, and I have our CEO, Howie Martin, on the
Howie
phone, so I
Martin
think
is-
maybe Howie would like to
I
talk
saw
first.
Howie Martin. Howie, everybody loves you, Howie Martin.
Put Howie.
Howie Martin. Okay. Okay, let's go, Howie Martin, and give me a 2-minute overview. I'll give you 3. Go ahead.
You're
You're on
muted.
mute.
How are you talking to yourself?
Howie, we can't hear you.
Okay, you better speak for
Okay.
him.
Still can't hear you.
Okay,
So
go
I'll
ahead.
get started in the meantime. Yes, so the open streets as is slated to take place on Thursdays between 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Pelham Parkway South between Hone Avenue and Mulliner Avenue. So while it's something that we know would be something the community would enjoy, it's going to have a negative effect on a huge aspect of one of our programs. We run a day camp program between June 28th through August 17th for about 500 kids a day. And we run 12 buses per day. And our buses arrive back to Brown's House in the evening between 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. So not having access to run our buses down Pelham Parkway and unload the kids in front of Bronx House is definitely going to be a very significant safety issue for the 500 children that we need picked up per day. So unfortunately, that's something that needs to be addressed because there would be no other safe way for us to unload those 500 kids on Thursdays if we're not able to run the buses down Pelham Parkway
Exactly.
to unload in front of Bronx House.
Okay, and part 2 of that is, so I don't know how this is going to work, DOT. So you're going to have blocks, was it 3 streets, 4 streets? 2 streets. And cars are going to come down, and you're going to tell those cars and those trucks to turn on Mulliner. You're going to have riots. Right?
And Mullen is torn up. with
Torn
Con
up,
Ed.
and it's a narrow street to start
It's
off
torn up with
with.
Con Ed.
So I don't know whose idea this was. So DOT, I'm all ears, whose idea was this? And we cannot destroy Howie Martin and his day camp and his representative here. And number 2, it's going to cause traffic chaos. You have enough traffic problems. Now you're going to have more problems. This gentleman wants to say something, and then we will get the response from DOT.
Kevin, thank you.
Hi, Kevin.
Okay. Are there currently no parking in front of Bronx House for the buses to drop off and pick up?
Yeah, correct, yes.
How many spots, like 2, 3?
It's the whole block.
Entire block, so we can fit 4 or 5 buses in front of Bronx House.
And then the rest kind of wait behind?
Yes.
They would-
No, we have a schedule, so depending on the schedule, they'll usually come in between 2 to 3 buses at a time.
And the alternative would be kind of what they said, they'd have to go down Mulliner to swing around, but they would never
But-
get in the front.
No, they're
Right,
in front.
exactly, there would be nowhere to let them
No way to
off.
get in front.
These are full-size school buses.
Yes.
I've lived there for 20 years. I'm just down the block from them. I see they got a perfected routine.
Putting another.
A lot, they have 2 or 3 buses that go in front of Bronx House. The others are few blocks back. Then they signal, they come up, they disembark or embark the children. For a school bus to go down Mulliner to then cross Leidick, to then go to Brady, and then make that turn, then to then try to make another turn.
Okay, Roxanne, could you hold off?
Can you hear me now?
I
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay,
Howie?
can I make a comment before Darissa speaks?
Sure.
It turns out we found out about this yesterday when all the cars were littered with these flyers from Friends of Pelham Parkway, which are now all over the community. But apparently we found out that we applied for this. It was one of our former staff. I guess she didn't realize the impact on what this would cause us. And so it's not DOT's fault. They didn't just randomly pick us. We applied, and I wanted to make sure that Darissa is clear and everybody here is clear that, this is not DOT's fault. It sounds like, I'm going to get a little bit more information tomorrow, but it sounds like we started this. It's a great concept. It's a concept of offering, free programming for the community. The suggestion was made in the flyer that we should go out on the grass and do whatever we have to do on the grass. But as some of you may know, the Parks Department does not issue permits for the grass on Pelham Parkway anymore. So again, we're going to look to try to clear this up, but it is definitely, as Leon said, a major problem, if it were to go on.
Okay, so Howie, thank you. Roxanne,
Howie,
Roxanne, could you give me 1 minute, Roxanne? Teresa?
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. I'd just like to say this weekend, and I thank you, Martha, for explaining how this occurred. I'd like to say I agree we cannot interfere with the summer camps for Bronx House. It's something the kids really enjoy to get away from the city. And secondly, a lot of the homeowners on Molitor and Home were very outraged because of the constant construction with DEP, DDC, with the hydrants being moved, and the inconvenience. And now they say, why this? Why do we need open streets, especially when we have a parkway? And I say parks, we should perhaps contact parks to make an exception for this open street on the parkway because it's harmless to the grass. I mean, it's just kids playing games and having outdoor programming. I'm all for this type of programming on the parkway with barriers to keep the kids protected, but there's no need for kids to play on asphalt, and it'll be inconvenient for the homeowners. Believe me, I could get petition. I have spoken to so many homeowners on Saturday and Sunday, and like the CEO, Mr. Martin said, I did fly the whole area. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Howie, what about Bogart Avenue?
Yes, the side streets.
So our buses, depending on the route that they're coming from, they also have to come up Bogart Avenue.
Okay, so Teresa, is
Yeah.
this as simple as Howie Martin to remove his application?
So
Unless
I'm
we-
gonna review this information tomorrow. As Howie mentioned, Bronx House applied for the permit, and so I have to speak with our public spaces team who reviews these applications and see what we can do, if we can make adjustments to it moving forward, and then I can get back to Bronx House and get back to CB11.
Okay, let's hope it's as easy as that, Howie, and I hope you fired that employee that put it that way.
Well, we think
You
she's no
promoted
longer with
her.
us. Depending on who it is, it may be someone who's no longer with us, but most of our staff is well aware of the role that day camp plays, how important it is to parents. It's
Okay.
childcare, we pick up, you could drop off at 7 a.m. and pick up at 6:30 p.m. So it's really full day childcare. It is out in the country where kids are swimming and climbing ropes, but the Open Streets is a great program too. We participated in a couple of them last year, and we'd love to do them. And that was actually my response to my staff. It's a great program. Let's look into it. But it went from let's look into it to filing an application. Bless you.
So what about Hone Avenue then? If the buses are coming down Bogart, is Hone feasible, do you think? Howie?
I think
To close off Hone?
Yeah.
I don't think it's big enough. You have first of all, you realize when we do a fun day on the Parkway in the fall, about 50% of the spots people don't move their cars anyway. So I think the people that live on Hone, if we tell them they can't park on Hone that day, I think there'll be a war with those people, at Hone, and we don't want to have that kind of relationship with the people that live around the corner from us. And it's a very narrow block too.
Right.
Okay. Okay, Teresa.
Yeah, I think the best next step is to just meet with Bronx House, try to figure out what works
Yeah,
for them, if there is something that does, and then we can follow up and let everyone know what we determine.
Okay. Did you want to say something before I got you?
I have my hand up. This is Hazel. We also have Morningside Nursing Home there. And
Yeah, we know.
I'm sorry?
It's a bad place. Hazel, you're
Yeah?
100% right. It is a bad place to put a place.
We, the nursing home,
Not
they
the
have
worst spot.
ambulance coming in and out of there, so.
Can't pick a worse spot. Okay. Very good, Hazel. Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Final comment before we stop talking about the Play Street, which is causing Howie Martin much anxiety.
I'd just like to thank the rabbi and Howie Martin for being very community-minded. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your blessings. Okay, we're, yes, sure. Okay, yeah, this gentleman. What you wanted to say before?
No, that
Say
was
it.
regarding the MTA bus improvement.
Go ahead,
project.
talk about it.
I just wanted to express my support for it. I took the BX12 as part of my daily commute for years.
Okay.
And I particularly look forward to the portion approaching Boston Road going eastbound because during the evening rush, the bus can miss several light cycles just waiting on that stretch. So I look forward to that, and these improvements can't come soon enough. We've been talking about this for years now.
Okay, duly noted. My apologies.
Yes.
Okay, okay. From gallery, anybody else would like to speak in the gallery? Kevin, I even remembered your name.
Yes, sir. I kind of registered, thanks. I'm just gonna make a comment, and at the end, I'm gonna ask if the committee may think about my concern.
Go ahead.
Recently, somebody was killed on Williamsbridge Road. He was on a bicycle.
Correct.
It was a tragic event, and it was a series of criminal acts that led to that. So I won't get into those criminal acts, whether I tell you he had, windshield didn't run, swerved, went through red light, blah, 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 blah. That's what happened. Somebody died there. Usually if somebody gets down in the street, DOT is standard operating procedure, surveys the area to see if there was something wrong. I didn't say anything about that. This was a very criminal act that created this situation. But now that that has settled and we all realize that this is what that was, if you do look at that area, that intersection, or Williamsbridge Road in general, it is very wide, and this particular crash that killed somebody is at a bend in the road. If you stood there at night, you'll see that there's a new restaurant there, and it's pretty bright on one corner, but there's a lot of good greenery around it, a lot of tall trees that are blocking the lights. So I still think that whether the DOT goes back and does a survey or doesn't, based upon the criminal investigation on this, I think that in this case here, that the DOT probably, I'd like to request the committee to review the letter I sent to the board today, which is what I'm talking about now, and feel that you write a letter to the DOT just saying, hey, would you mind if you weren't going to do a survey, do one? And that would basically be from Sackett to Pelham Parkway on Williamsbridge Road. Specifically, this incident happened on Williamsbridge in
What
Peter.
date, please?
The date that happened was March 6th.
That's a while back.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just gonna read this one little piece here, though.
Sure, no problem.
Roadway is wide and has a bend which is conducted to speeding. There are many trees providing cool shade, but some are blocking streetlights. Two of the crosswalks at two different intersections could be better identified, and LPI signaling would benefit the elderly pedestrians in the area. Matter of fact, 2 weeks back, somebody crashed through the red light on Van Nest and crashed into the corner house and knocked this guy's whole stoop out. So that's just part of it, 1 block away from where this incident happened. Perhaps, as a separate incident, a separate issue, the DOT can review Sackett Avenue itself after they install the bike network, bike lanes on Eastchester. To connect that over to Williamsbridge Road would be very beneficial, even though Williamsbridge Road doesn't have bike lanes. And you notice I didn't mention bike lanes on Williamsbridge Road. I would want them to do a survey and figure out what they feel may be necessary. There is a lot of traffic on Williamsbridge Road. But that would also connect Hone and, what's the name of the other street? Yates and Hone, which have bike lanes. One going one direction, one going the other, up the Pelham Parkway, which really goes nowhere. It goes to Sackett. So as a separate issue, but kind of connected to that Williamsbridge Road potential survey, can you look at Sackett as a connection with the Eastchester Road bike network up to Williamsbridge Road? And I sent a letter kind of explaining a little bit.
I don't know who's left there. I see Teresa and I've got Tyler, right?
Excuse me.
Any response to Kevin for what he just said?
So we are aware of the fatality on Williamsbridge Road, and we are taking a look at that. But if the community board wants to send a letter, we're happy to also take a look at Sackett and also Williamsbridge Road.
I also sent this same request letter to the councilwoman. She may be getting in touch with you the same. I looked at it from. last night.
Velasquez?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take there and then I'll take my friend, Mr. Press. Okay, Mr. Gonzalez, Ms. Delgado, and Ms. Finch in that order, please. Thank you.
Yes, what I wanted to speak based on what Kevin was mentioning is with all the proposals that are going to be put in with the Metro North or whatever, I don't know if adding bike lane on Williamsbridge Road, if there was a study or not, but regardless of what, there is a bike lane or not, when anybody is out at night, and this is something that I've seen citywide, there is always a risk and a potential to having an accident. It's dark at night. Maybe the lighting. Yeah, Kevin was right. My concern is that Sackett, with all the employees that come out of Einstein, I would not put a bike lane on that road. There's just too many cars that go by there. But if they want to do it, they do it. And lastly, I really believe that if there could be a way to get parks to speak about making an exception, and as to why they stopped giving permits, it was very, very interesting, because I really believe that the city should work with the community, not as just the community has to take what the city says, but I think it has to be a mutual thing, and so that's all I have to say.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Ms. Delgado.
Yes, sorry, Rabbi. Yes, well, Pelham Parkway does not have permit because it doesn't have a bathroom and it's a greenway. But if it's for Bronx House, they actually have facility inside, restrooms and amenities for the kids. So they could do go indoors and outdoors. But I said make exception for Bronx House, not have permits in the greenway, because there's no facility to accommodate, especially restrooms. Secondly, we have to be careful what we ask for. Look what happened with Bronxdale Safety Road Diet. There was an accident where a cyclist was hit by a car last night on Bronxdale and Kruger, and 2 days before, a pedestrian was hit on Bronxdale and Matthews. So this actually road diet has made it unsafe. So I know we have people who are asked for things, but we have to be sure that the DOT and people who are experts on traffic studies, that they base this on data and science, not based on someone's beliefs or wants or desire, because one person's desire actually has impacted the whole community on Bronx in a very harmful manner, including the Van Ness Academy, where teachers have to become traffic agents in the morning. It's unfair to the community. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Next goes Ms. Finch.
Yes, 3 quick things. I use a e-scooter more than a bike, but I think Sackett would be a great street for a bike lane. I use it without a bike lane. It would be great with bike lane. Bronxdale, I use the new bike lane, and I notice every time I use it, it's a little bit more improved. They're making tweaks at the intersections, more daylighting. It just seems to get safer and safer, and more people are using it. And then also I wanted to thank DOT, because finally, we are getting the ponding situation on Mace and Barker addressed with new sidewalk, new curb. Fingers crossed that it will take care of it. I spoke with the community liaison today. And big thank you from all of Bronx Park East Community Association for that.
Thank you, Diana. We love those thank yous. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Press, it's yours.
Okay, hopefully DOT is still listening, because tomorrow night, the Environment and Sanitation Committee is having a public hearing on either removal or addition to alternate side street parking. Now, when I was on Community Board 8, though, I was Vice Chair of Traffic Transportation, and I was also on Environment and Sanitation, as almost every other committee. But one committee cannot do it. Environment and Sanitation may control the alternate side parking, but DOT is the ones who make the signs. So wouldn't that meeting have to be a joint DOT Environment and Sanitation Committee meeting on alternate side parking, like we did on Community Board 8, and we reduced the alternate side parking from 4 days a week to 2 days on the residential blocks, and on the commercial blocks, for instance, like Morris Park Avenue, instead of having to have that alternate side every day in the morning, we reduced it to every other day for 3 times a week from 6 times a week. So would the Transportation Committee have to be involved with the Environment Sanitation Committee as was done on Community Board 8?
If that question is for me, then I'll just say that we just install whatever sanitation tells us to. So we're not gonna have any input for that meeting. We're just gonna go by whatever sanitation can take on.
Changed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any else in gallery? Going once, twice, 3 times. Anybody have any old business that they would like to discuss? Old?
Old
Old.
business. I know Jeremy CC'd some people from DOT. On Pelham Parkway between Stillwell and the Hutch overpass, I've repeatedly asked for years the yellow and the white lines to be painted. They had responded back a couple months back that they were going to be doing it, and that timeline has now since expired. When are they going to paint the lines by the 911 call center, which is Stillwell to the Hutch overpass? Because there's no lines there.
Is there a state issue? Yes.
It's not a state issue. It's I've been asking for years, Kevin. I've been asking for years. I've been getting one excuse after another. DOT had said a couple of months back they were going to be doing it, and their timelines has now expired. I'm wondering when this stuff's gonna get painted.
So I can take a look at this request. I did see the email that Jeremy sent. We are taking a look at it. Usually I will say when we're doing any sort of markings, we usually do it when we're already resurfacing there. So let me take a look at what our timeline is and I can get back to you. I'm not sure why it wasn't done in the time frame that was provided, but I can take a look and get back to you.
Because I've been asking for a number of years, pre-pandemic, we're talking, pre-pandemic. So, and like I've stated before, I'm driving a school bus through this area. It's absurd that there's no lines there and it's a free-for-all.
Okay. Anybody else with old business? Anybody with new business?
Yeah, Rabbi, it's Chris about the new business.
Chris?
Is it
What do you
okay
got?
to change the timing of the meeting instead of 7:30, make it at 7 p.m.?
Yeah, what you said. What'd you say?
Can we change the timing of the meeting from 7:30 to 7 p.m.?
I don't have a problem with that. Anybody else
Yes,
have a
please.
problem?
Yes, please, please.
7 is fine with me.
7 is fine, better for me too.
Okay.
Thank you.
From now on, we'll
Okay.
switch to
Thank
7.
you, everybody that was here. Thank you, everybody from the public. Thanks, DOT. MTA's on their way home. Thank
Can I
them.
just ask a quick question? I'm sorry.
A quickie. Go ahead.
Yeah, the meetings will be in person starting in September?
Don't have a solid answer for that yet, but
Okay.
I'm thinking it's going to be, but don't have a solid answer for that yet.
There is
Especially
a-
with the mayor still deciding stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Chris.
Okay. Good evening to
Congrats,
everybody.
by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Oh,
what's gonna happen is that the state of emergency ends on June 20th. It's a possibility that we're gonna go back to face to face.
Okay.
It's accepted hybrid too, meaning what? That the people that has to be present, they have to have a quorum to be present to be able to have the meeting. So if anybody, for whatever reason, well, gotta be some kind of strong reason, can attend via a hybrid. But all the members of the committee are required, at least the majority of members of the committee are required to be face to face. So everything depends on the mayor. If he can extend it, he can extend. If not, then we'll go back to what we used to do.
Understood. Just let us know as you guys have updates, just in case for any future meetings. Thank you.
Most definitely. But also, you know that Jeremy's gonna have his district service cabinet meeting on Thursday. Just at least you guys can be aware of it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
so much, everybody. Have a good evening. Get home safe. Enjoy your television programs tonight. Television anymore. It's cable programs tonight, right?
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.